So now we have a page, but our button is not working. We cannot add a new country to the list. And that is where JavaScript comes to help. So JavaScript is a way to provide interaction and DOM manipulation. And what I mean by interaction, we want the page to react to events of the user. So if the user clicks somewhere, if the user move the mouse on top of something, over in something, or whenever or type some text, we want to react to that. So this is the interaction part. In this case, JavaScript will react to events that the page will tell the code. And we also have DOM manipulation. By DOM is you can think in DOM as the HTML and CSS together, and the JavaScript will allow you to change this structure. So you add new divs, remove divs or any element, change the styles of each element. So this is what we call DOM manipulation, and that's how we make the page change to show a new thing that we want to show. So things important about JavaScript is a runtime language, so you don't have to compile it, and it's not typed, so you don't have to provide a string, int, any type to our variables. You can just declare a variable and use it. And everything is objects, so including functions. So you can write one function that do something, and you can pass this function as parameters. And this is highly important for D3, for example. You will see that we pass a lot of function as parameter to D3. So we have some example here how we declare a variable or how we declare an array. You see that there is no type, and how we declare functions, but we are going to see that in details in the demo. So one thing that is important is, as I said, about JavaScript object. So the first thing on the left side, we have what we call JSON. So if you don't know JSON, JSON is a type of data format. So we have CSV, that is the most popular one. That is the ones that we use to export our Excel spreadsheet. So if you have a data in Excel, you can export to CSV. That is basically rows and columns. In JSON, we have a different situation. We have some keys, and then we have values. So in this case, name is the key, and John is the value for the key name. And everything inside these two curly brackets is the object. So we can have arrays, a list of hobbies, and we can even have objects inside other objects. So this is much richer a way to provide data, so you can provide nested data and so on. So many visualizations use JSON, and even in our case in D3, if you load a CSV file, it will be converted in a JSON objects that is very similar to JS objects that is what we have in the right. So in JS objects, you will see that sometimes you don't need the quotation marks that you need here. And we also see that you can add functions. So a JSON object is a JavaScript object is basically a JSON with some new features. In this case, the most important one is the ability to add functions. And we will see how this is important later. So let's see how JavaScript can be important on our page, and we can use that to manipulate the DOM and react to events of the user. Okay, to show how JavaScript works, we are going to use this simple page. So this page has one title, that is the H1 here, and one section contains a label, input where the user can type something, and a button with change. So the idea is whenever the user click here, I want to change this value. And to do that, we need JavaScript. And what we can do is we can add a script here, so we can write code, the JavaScript code here. So one thing that you can do, you can write JavaScript here on the top as well. But the advantage of writing it here is that when the browser starts to run your JavaScript, your page is already loaded, so you can manipulate everything. You can face some problems if you put your code here. And I think it's also more organized, so you can have style, you can have the page, and then you can have all JavaScript group together at the end. So One thing that I told before is that you can declare a variable, and this variable I want to call it new title because will be the title that I want to add there. And great. So one thing that you can do to debug and test if everything is working is using develop tools from Chrome. So you can go to more tools in this button and then select developer tools. It will show this window here. So you will see that brackets stop working when I do that. So the live update will not happen anymore, but at least you have the debug here. And for JavaScript, you'd have to refresh the page anyway. So let's try to write the value of this variable to the console and see. So you see that here is the value, but now instead of writing it here, I want to write it here. So one thing that we have is that this h1, I assigned one ID to it. So it's easy to get the value and manipulate this element if it has one ID. So one way to get this element is just using document.get element by ID and pass the ID of the element. So this will allow JavaScript to manipulate the element now. So I will call it title element. Let's see if it works. So now I have the new title, and you see that here when I hover the element on the top. So this means that if I manipulate, I will be manipulating this element. So now I want to manipulate it. So let's do title element.inner HTML equal new title. Let's refresh. So you see that now it updated the title here to the new one and works pretty well. The thing is, I don't want to be automatic. I want to react to the user click here. I want the user to change the title. So what I can do is I want to create a function first to change the title. That will make things easier. So I'll call it a function change title. And I will move these 2 lines of codes there. And then now I can just call change title with the new title. Oh, sorry. I have to remove these logs from here. And I have to add this here. Okay, so what's happening here is that I am declaring this variable, I am declaring this function, and then I call the function. Whenever I call the function over here, I will run this code inside the function that will get the element and change the element to the value that is passed as parameter. So now instead of calling this function here, I want the user to call when it click here. So I can do one click, and then I will call this code. See? Now it only changes when the user clicks in the button. It becomes a new title. The thing is, I don't want to use a predefined title. I want the user to type the title here and then change to the new one. So what I can do is do not pass a value here, and I will add a if clause. So if there is, no new title. So in this case, if a no new title is passed as parameter, that is this case, I will get the value from the input. So the input also need an ID now. So I add one ID to it, and then I can call it from here, document get element by ID text input, and I will update the value of new title. Sorry, this is not here. And I will get the value of this input. So this is how you get the value of a text input. So you just get element by ID dot value, and you get the value from here. Let's see if it works. You see that anything that the user types here becomes the new title. Great. So you see that just some line of code, we were able to manipulate the DOM. So it's important to use get element by ID to get the element, and you will use init.html to change the element. But one thing that I want to do is I want to keep track of every title. Every new title, I want to have a list of the previous ones. So I want to know how it changes. So to do that, I want to add a UL here that will be our list of titles. And then I have like an old title. This is just a placeholder for now. But the idea is that I have here the old title. So every time I have a new title, I will add it here. So how can we do that? We need a function that I will call log title. This will log the changes on the title, and this will be the title itself. So to keep track of all the changes, you can just add a new li every time the title changes. So I can do, again, I can use an ID here, and I can use document get element by ID log. So now I have the log, and if I want to just add a new element, I can use append child. So first you can create the element. So a new entry will be document.create element, and will be one li. This new entry will have the inner HTML. So I am creating the element. Now I am changing the value to the new title, and then I can just append the new entry to the old list. So this will just add a new value, and for now I will remove this one. Let's see. Oh, but of course, every time the title changes, I have to call the function here. So just change the title, then I call the log title, and I will pass the new title as parameter. So now I'm changing the title and adding the value to the list. So these are ways that you can manipulate the DOM and updating things. So one thing that you can do more complex things. For example, I want to keep track of which time this change happened. So what you can do is you can get the current date, and you can append the date here to time string. So you can do date time string plus the new title. Let's see. So you see that now we have the time here, and we keep getting updated what was the time that the title changed. But one thing that would be interesting is to show a clock here, so I can check and validate if the time is correctly and so on. So how we can do that? So there is one thing in JavaScript called set interval, and this will be very useful. So remember that I say that you can pass function as parameter. So in this case, I am creating what we call an anonymous function. So set interval is one function from JavaScript that sets another function to run in some interval. In my case, will be 1 second. That is 1000 milliseconds. So anything that I write here will run every second. So let's try to see if it works. I will do exactly the same thing here. So new date to time string. But I'm logging, so we should see the times updating here. Let's see. See? It keeps running each second. So this pattern we use all the time with D3. So we pass a function to D3 so D3 can call and do something with the returned value. And this is the idea here. But I don't want to show the time on the console. I want to show the time here below the title. So I will add a div here, and I will give an ID called clock. And now I want to update the value of the clock. So we can use the same pattern, document.get element by ID, clock, inner HTML equal new date to time string. Let's update. So you see that now we have a clock here, and then can try new title, and everything is working. So this is the basics of JavaScript. We will keep building on top of that. In each class that I need to introduce some concept, I will introduce to you, but it's not a hard language. It's pretty easy to use. And if you have any doubt or any comment, remember the forum is there for that. Okay, now that we understand JavaScript, we are able to come back to our previous exercise and make the add button works. So that's what I want you to do. I want you to allow the user to type some country name, click in the add button, and this country will show in the list, as you can see here in the animation. Things that are important. So you can use on click on the button to capture the click action of the user. Add an ID attribute to the input so you can get the value using the ID. And whenever you add a new country, just add a new li element to your list so you can keep in the same consistent, and in every change everything will look the same and so on. So thanks, and remember, use the forum for any question or comments that you have, if you have any problem as well, and submit the result of your exercises on this week assignment as it will be graded. Thank you. See you.